But with that, I think that we're good to go. Kgodisho again, big. Oh. Okay. Example number 1. Andrew, you got something. You want to say? Let's hear it.
Sarah, thanks for being on the ones and twos. My sponsors just made me get into this call, so I don't even know who Kgodisho is, but I heard he's like a really good musician or whatever. So I mean, can't wait to see his drop.
Yeah.
I just want to know, guys who are in this call, guys and girls who are in this call, I'd love to just on the chat, if you can, just say what you're doing at Umuzi. If you're with Umuzi, that's great. So what stream you're in, what cohort you're in. I'd love to hear that. If you're at the UCT Digital Bootcamp, let's see it. So if you could just put that in the comments so we can see who's who in the zoo.
I like it.
And then rock from there.
Let's go. Let's see. Who do we have in the building? Are there any alumni here representing from C10 and beyond or before?
Yo, that's got to be me. It's got to be me.
We've got Kath from Umuzi, Head of Partnerships, and very keen to be here. Thanks for being here, Kath. Thanks for being here. Who else have we got in the building?
So let them go, because I think General Dog's Body. Oh God, there's Lindy Lawson again. She's the General Dog's Body.
So another rule is no inside jokes, team. If there's inside jokes, they need to be shared with the general public. Thank you very much. So someone, please. Natasha's here for the house music. I mean, I'm for that movement. You came to the right place. We'll let those roll in, and maybe we'll touch on them a little bit later. But let us know where you're at, where you're from. Are you in a cohort? Are you just a friend that loves us and we love you back? Are you an alumni? Are you a team member? We want to see who's representing. Reese is here from C15, guys. I don't even know if when was that? That was 2019, way back then. Pre-COVID years, it's a mystery. We've got UCT Bootcamp representing, Kululeko, welcome. It's so great, guys. Jump on the chat there and see how many people we've got from all over the show here. AWS stand up. Liesel's here from the learner experience team. Cool. I think we'll let those roll in. Kgodisho, we're getting sidetracked, my friend. We are here to hear from you. We are here to hear about your journey. Let me not say all of the things, but it's an honor, honestly, to have you in the space. You've had a pretty long journey with Umuzi, starting out as a learner, as a part of C4. What year was that? Remind me.
That's 2016. So I'm everybody's ancestor.
Yeah. Umuzi ancestor. That's a whole other audience that we haven't even started on. And you've moved through the space as a learner, as an alumnus, as well as a team member. You joined the team and headed up Umuzi's design department. And your creative pursuits are widespread in the music industry, in art direction, in product design, in the UX and the UI space. Also, just a side note, one of the greatest human beings that I've had the pleasure of meeting. Your kindness and your gentle spirit is something that is so appreciated in this world. So all the love for you. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. I can't wait to connect with you for years and years to come. So thank you for being here. And this is for you and for us. So thank you.
Thank you. I think you've covered most of everything. I think I'll just start by sharing my screen and then I'll speak to that. Just a heads up, if my screens jump around, it's technology doing the things, but I should be sorting it out.
No thing. The one thing that we've become quite accustomed to this few years is technical difficulties.
100%. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, we got you.
Cool. So today's topic is gonna be like about crafting your dreams. So I'm just gonna be taking you through my journey of this thing of figuring out your dreams and crafting them. Um, so as mentioned, I'm Kgodisho. I'm a user interface and experience designer. Currently working in the fintech, that's like short for financial tech. Um, and an Umuzi alumni from Cohort 4, as mentioned. Um, yeah, so that's a long time ago. It's like back in 2016. We didn't even think something like COVID would exist back then. So yeah, um, then I'm a graphic designer. Did some little bit of art direction, also illustrator, and now strictly UI and UX design. So this is just like a collage of some of the work I've done throughout my career. Um, so from there, the journey of where all of this has started, I think I can go back to like when I was still in my hood in the village. So I grew up in Limpopo in a small village called Ramphahlele. And then from there, right after matric, I had to like come to Joburg. Um, and my journey of becoming a creative has always been like something that I was aware of, but I don't think it can become a career or something I can make a living out of, especially growing up like in an environment where you're not exposed to a lot of resources or information. But I would say like my main discovery of knowing what I wanted to do is there was um, some events popping up in my hood. And I saw like posters on at taxi ranks or at shops, and I didn't even know it was called a poster, but I knew that I wanted to know how that thing is created. Um, then I started asking around on like who's the designer is and all this kind of stuff, and I post them and ask them, hey, how do you create this? What do you use? And that's when I was introduced to Photoshop. And then just upon doing that kind of research, I was given access to Photoshop through my cousin who worked in IT. And I think we were using the hacked version. So I hope this call is not being recorded. So
Definitely being recorded. Can
yeah,
I jump
so
in there, Kgodisho? We caught up last night, and something that was so interesting that you said to me was
yeah,
before coming into Joburg or into your profession, the UX UI space was a mystery to you, right? Like
yeah,
you were working on poster design for Black Coffee with,
yeah,
with teasers.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I was telling Sarah yesterday that I was creating these like hypothetical designs or hypothetical event posters, and I'll put them on on Facebook and be like, Black Coffee is coming. But I'll put at least disclaimer in like small text at the bottom so I don't get in trouble. But mainly that was for me putting myself out there, and it's very important to put yourself out there and just so people know what you're doing. And upon putting myself out there, it led me to discovering Umuzi because I got an inbox to one of the Umuzi alumni, probably like from Cohort 0 or from Cohort 1, somewhere there, just telling me about Umuzi, like, hey bro, check out this thing called Umuzi, give it a shot. Applied, got an interview, um, and then got into Umuzi and became part of the Umuzi gang. So, sorry, someone wants to speak. Okay. So yeah, that's
Gang,
how
that's
I
it. Gang,
discovered.
gang, gang.
That's how I discovered Umuzi, right? I discovered it through someone on Facebook, and that was due to the fact that you have to put yourself out there, and the importance of putting yourself out there is very, very important because especially if you don't fully understand or have access to the people who are in the industry that you're in, it's really important to like search those things because before me posting these things on Facebook and whatever, it was very strategic because I was told about Umuzi at some point when I was in college studying civil engineering, wasting my time. Um, yeah, so I'm a dropout. I'm a dropout. I was studying civil engineering before this. Um, I was taught about Umuzi because I was always interested in design. Even while studying civil engineering, I would always design hypothetical stuff, and my friends would be like, "Hey, there's this thing called Umuzi," and I searched because Facebook is so great, and people would like put where they work. And I just went to everybody who works at Umuzi and be like, invite, 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 because I knew that when I post, hopefully they will see it and say something, and it worked. It worked. So that's how I discovered Umuzi. Um, and then like one of the things that stood out from Umuzi is something that was said by a lady called Razan, also like part of the Umuzi.Org gang. Um, so she once said, if you don't feel like doing it, and then you don't feel like being successful. And this came from this other day. There was another boot camp happening, um, and I think as recruits, when Andrew and Gilbert and Tatehloni tried to convince us, we were just not feeling it. It was just one of those days. So it just looked like we didn't want to do it. The sentence is too far. We don't have money. Blah 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 blah. All the kind of excuses, and her saying this just like really hit us hard, and we're like, oh, okay, cool. We have to do this thing, and I've lived by these words. I think till now, especially because I struggle with discipline, and I think everybody goes through that. Struggle with discipline and like focus and procrastinating, and just remembering these words can really like got me through a lot, and for me to be where I am today. Um, and as I said, the reason why I live by this word is mainly because I'm just trying to live my life creatively while making a difference along the way and providing for my family, because we all have responsibilities. Um, and also, hopefully, at some point, be free from the pressure of having to make a living, hopefully, later in life. So that's like the main reason why I do what I do. Just to provide for my family, make a difference while doing that, and relax afterwards. So yeah, so that's the jump I was talking about. So I'm just gonna sorry about that. Just gonna go through this page. Okay. Cool. So now I'm just gonna talk about my career journey so far. Um, so I started after Umuzi. I started as officially as an art director. I was working in advertising um, with an agency called Joe Public. Then I worked as an art director from 2017 to 2018, and that was strictly focused on advertising, coming up with ideas for TV ads, for print ads, for campaigns, and stuff like that. It was fun. Got to work on like huge brands like NetBank, um, Chicken Licken. Chicken Licken was the most fun because their ads are always funny. So that was fun. And there was just like a few of the clients that they had. It was cool. But I realized that my love is mainly for pixels, and I didn't get to do that a lot with art direction because you just come up with ideas, go and shoot the ad, and then come back and come up with idea, go and shoot the ad. Yes, sir.
Kgodisho, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What is a pixel?
Pixel. Okay.
Pixel, is it that square that comes in a picture when you have unstable Wi-Fi?
Yeah, that's it.
I have that all the time.
That's it. Yeah, that's definitely it. So pixels, mainly I just mean like I like designing. I like designing. I like opening for Photoshop. I like opening Illustrator, moving shapes around and creating something. I enjoy that more.
Okay.
So that's what that means. And I felt like art direction didn't really allow me to do that a lot because mainly you'd be shooting things for TV and you only design like the text that pop up and stuff like that, which was cool. I learned a lot from that. Um, it,
So So
Yeah.
there's questions that build on that, if you don't mind me jumping in. So
Yeah.
Tsepo's asking on the chat, and I think that you were talking to that now in sort of saying that you felt a little bit limited in that art direction role. But his question is, so what exactly about advertising made you go, Yana, I don't think this is for me, hey? What was that thing?
So I think, as you'll see, like throughout my presentation, everything seems like something that I would just stumble across. Like, okay, oh, there's this thing, there's this thing. So through curiosity, that's when I discover what I actually like more. It goes back to me not knowing this industry well enough to know what I want and what I don't want. So I try out everything that I can, right? And I'm just going to talk about this just now, and I'll be answering your questions, Hapo. Yeah, so from moving from art direction, I had to move to graphic design, right? And fortunately, Joe Public is so big that it has different departments. And then I moved to graphic design because I wanted to learn how to craft and all this kind of stuff, design logos, those concepts, come up with concepts for logo and presentations and stuff like that. And then from there, I got a call from Clayton, another Umuzi legend.
For those that don't know, so jump on the two members that have been mentioned. So Royzanne, who you saw that really badass quote from in the beginning, if you don't feel like doing something, you don't feel like being successful. That's so hard, so hard. So Royzanne she used to oversee placements and work with Umuzi learners to place them in job opportunities and work experience ops. So Mama Roy was the lady that you go to once you finish your upskilling at Umuzi and you're ready for industry, you're ready for the world. And then you guys work together and get a nice opportunity. And you worked with Roy to go to your work experience at Joe Public. Hey, Kgodisho, is that right?
Yeah.
And then where you mentioned now Clayton. So Clayton Bond, some of you maybe will know him if you are maybe an alumnus with us, but Clayton Bond used to be our copywriting lead. So Clay was a super, super energetic team member.
Yeah. So I got a call from Clayton about this opportunity at Umuzi because he always knew that I like the environment at Umuzi, and I liked and I always told him like 1 year I'm gonna come back and work here. And when that opportunity came up, he gave me a call like, "Hey, dude, this opportunity came up. You want to give it a shot?" Then I gave it a shot, and that's when I became a design manager for Umuzi from 2019 to 2021. And then that's where I got into more of the UX side of things, because now Umuzi is also changing direction. So I got more into the UX, UI side of things, which I actually discovered previously, but I wasn't too informed on it. So that gave me an opportunity to also upskill myself onto that journey. And then now, to answer your question, Seppo, that's when I started moving fully into the UI and UX space. And my first gig was actually from Canada, which I didn't really trust in the beginning, because I was like, well, yeah.
Canada, like in Mexico.
Yeah, in Mexico.
Oh, but okay, just so I have it.
Canada, America's neighbor. Yeah. So I got an opportunity there, but it was a remote thing, so I didn't have to move to Canada. I should clear that up. So I got that opportunity in a company called Toria. It's like an encryption security company. They make sure that they protect your information, all that kind of stuff. So when that opportunity came up, like I got an inbox from LinkedIn. It's like, "Hey, we're looking for UI designers. Would you be interested?" And I think I told Andrew and Gilbert about it, and and they allowed me to do that, and they're like, "Nah, give it a shot." And I think it kind of overlapped with my work at Umuzi as well. The date is wrong there. I worked with Toria from 2021. It kind of overlapped because of the time difference, right? So it gave me some time to work to do some Umuzi work, and then later on switch and do their work, because I think there was like, is it a 5 hour or 7 hour? No, it's 5 hour difference. Yeah. Um, yeah, just working all day. That was not fun. I'm never doing that again. Um, so I did that. It was really cool, and just also learned a lot from working with people from different time zones. Like I'm here at like 10 at night working, and is in India and it's like 12 o'clock midnight. Someone's in Canada and it's like 10 a.m. in the morning. So just working with people from different time zones, that was really fun. And then that's where I got fully into that. And then towards the end of that, I moved into product design, which is pretty much the same as UI UX, if we're being honest. Um, these are just fancy titles. Um, at APSA, and I don't know how many people believe in like manifestations and just putting things out there, but there was this other day, as Umuzi, we went to APSA. I think it was myself, Andrew, Gilbert, Warwick, Kimi. I think it was like five of us. Yeah. And we went to APSA just to get more information on how like we can get more recruits to APSA and stuff like that. And like just by going to that space and interacting with everybody, I kind of knew that I want to work here one day. I have no idea how I'm gonna get there, but I kind of knew that I wanna work there one day. And also this speaks to the importance of building relationships and knowing people. Um, and how I found the job is I was looking for new opportunities, and it just happens that Kimi and Warwick were went to the same school with the guy who's like the head of design at APSA, right? Um, so when I was looking for new opportunities, Kimi, big shout out to Kimi, um, posted about me on LinkedIn. It's like, hey, there's this person who's looking for opportunities, a cool designer. Here's a link to his portfolio. Um, and the head of design at APSA was just like, hey, I'm looking for people. And that's when I got to connect with them and do the whole interview process, which was very long. It was very long. I think I did an interview in December and I only started working there in April the following year. They're very hectic. They're very hectic. Um, but it's all worth it because they're really strict about who they pick, which I think is cool because it kind of builds a very strong team. So yeah, so that's where I'm currently working as a product designer, and yeah, and again, I'm showing this slide again mainly because of how my career has went like from one thing to the other. I think it kind of even shows in my work that okay, cool, from art direction to design to UX, now that's not that. Um, so yeah, that's how my career went. It wasn't really a straight line, and I think expecting it to be a straight line would be wrong because you discover a lot of things on your way, and you decide what you want and what you don't want. I think if you're lucky to discover and define what you actually want and what your goal is from the beginning, it's easier to focus on that and just do that. But if all this information is new, you're kind of afraid that, okay, what if I'm ignoring that and that's actually what I want? And you just go on and on. Um, and we were actually talking about people having one talent or the one thing that they focus on. And I don't believe that anybody has like one talent. Yes, you might be good at something more than the other, but I don't believe that anybody has one talent. So if you can do something, um, definitely go ahead and do that, right? Um, and now I'm just going to talk a bit about my life outside work. I'm sorry, let me just double check if my presentation didn't skip. Okay, it didn't skip. Yeah. So life outside work. So I think as Sarah mentioned, a producer and singer and songwriter. So when I make music, I go by the name Zito Mowa.
Don't get shy now, Kgodisho. Now you're not looking at
And
camera. Now you're not. You're looking away.
Yeah, it's weird talking about yourself, man.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
But I have to do it. Yeah, so I'm a producer and singer and songwriter. Yeah, I go by the name Zito Mowa. So when I'm Zito Mowa, I make deep house. But when I'm OK God, that's like my singing alter ego. Um, and most of the time, I get the question, why did you call yourself OK God? It's just a bold name. Um, and OK God actually comes from my actual name, which is Kgodisho. It comes from like the first four letters of my name uh, is K God. So OK God comes from the first four letters of my name, K God. So that's where that comes from. Um, yeah. So yeah, check my music out when you get a chance.
We
Uh,
did before you got here. It's dope.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But then I also run a small record label called Silver Records. Um, yeah, I named it after my the village that I come from. It's called Sileteng, so I just called my record label Silver. Um, so it's mainly strictly house music, and if you get a chance, also check it out. Um, I'll try and drop the link in the chat, but if not, just search for this name right here.
I think
Uh,
what we'll do, Khodeish, is if you plug me with all your links, then
yeah,
I'll make sure that we distribute the free literature.
100%, 100%. Cool. So I run that small like label called Silver Record, just giving other like upcoming artists opportunity to release their music, and I try and push them as much as I can. Um, yeah, so that's that. Um,
I
and
think a
yeah,
question that came in earlier that kind
mm,
of links to this, also from Tsepo, is maybe you can speak to it later, Khodeish, but he asked how has being a UX designer or having the sort of the more corporate side or however you frame your,
mm,
the other side of your work, how has that afforded you the time to explore your DJ career or your music production career? Because
yeah,
it's a lot, right? You maintain two jobs sometimes, never part-time, full-time, record label, music production.
yeah. Yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot. It takes a lot of sacrificing your time and like also like figuring out how to manage your life because you need those other things outside of just working constantly. And I'm gonna speak to that later on. Um, you need all of those things so you can take a break and come back, take a break and come back. And I know like there's this thing of no sleep, blah 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 blah. I don't really agree with that. I think you need to rest. I think you need to rest. I think if you're not gonna sleep, um, do it early in your career when you're still building up. Then when you're good, when you're good, sleep because now you're good at your work, so you don't have to like always do that. So how has that afforded me time to explore my DJing career? So I usually do these things. Like the music side of things really happens on weekends, and being a DJ, most events happen at weekends because everybody's working during the week. So that kind of gives me space to say, okay, cool, these days are dedicated to that, these days are dedicated to that. And DJing is not as consistent as my day-to-day life or day-to-day work. So there's gaps in between to take break from DJing or making music when I find time. Um, yeah, so that's how that works for me. um yeah, and everybody has their own flow, so I think as soon as you figure that out on what works for you, then yeah, everything will just flow better. um so as I mentioned, uh please make time for your family, if your family loved ones, block out some time to rest, enjoy your hobbies, things outside of work, do them, right? Because those things are really, they're there to recharge you and all this kind of stuff. Go out if you're an outgoing person. Go see that play. Read industry-related articles or industry-related books. just to understand more of your industry. And there's nothing wrong with having like a lazy weekend where you do nothing and binge, right? Do that. Don't fall into that thing of doing it all the time though. Like dedicate some time to do that so you can get it out of your system and then go back to work. And honestly, like, it's not that deep, right? I think if you put in the work, at some point you have to rest, take leave. I think this is something that they're really encouraging us to do where I'm working currently. They encourage us to take breaks a lot. So yeah, take breaks, take care of yourself, whatever that works for you, right? Because those things kind of ground you sometimes. Like, I know for me, going home kind of, I like saying it kind of detoxes the city out of me. So when I come back, I come very recharged and very energized. Then I can go straight back to work. Yeah, and my golden rules are the first one, and this I always mentioned even when I was still working at Umuzi. Like, your reputation is your biggest currency. Like, your reputation is everything, right? So this comes from like how you treat people, how you work, the quality of your work. Is very important. And I think this has always worked in my advantage on finding opportunities because I make sure that I protect my reputation and live up to whatever expectations that I've set for myself. Um, and that would make people want to work with you more, right? And then people trust you more with their work. So your reputation is everything. So make sure you protect that by all means. It could be the quality of your work. It could be how you work with other people. That's very important because if nobody wants to work with you, nobody will hire you. And the industry you're in is very small. Everybody knows everybody. So now if they say, nah, Kgodisho is not like the best person to work with, nobody's gonna hire you. Um, so not saying you shouldn't stand up for yourself, but you should also just treat other people the way you would like to be treated. Then my second one is I was told this by my manager when I was still a graphic designer, because other people will get cool projects, right? And I was like, I want to design that, I want to design that. And I went to him like, why am I not getting these type of projects? And of course, the people who were getting this project were more senior to me, but for me in my head, that didn't matter because I was like, I can do the same thing. So, so I went to him like, so why am I not getting these type of projects? So besides me being a junior and not having proven myself enough to be trusted with those kind of projects, I think the main thing that stood out from what he said is the difference between me and those people that I'm comparing myself with is they put like an extra hour, right? And I know this sounds like a contradiction because I just mentioned that you should rest and now I mentioned that you should put an extra hour, but it goes back to you learning to manage your time. So as you are knocking off at like 4:30 or whatever you knock off, and someone decided, okay, cool, I'm gonna put an extra hour and maybe go home at like 5:30. That's a small difference. That's a small gap, but it makes a huge difference because that extra hour that person puts in, they're like they're crafting and they're doing this, they're doing that. They're ready for the next day, right? And you are just gonna pick up from wherever you left off, and you're gonna work from there. And you ask yourself, why are these people always prepared and all this type of things? It's because they put in an extra hour. So always think of that. Yeah, so those are my two golden rules. Any questions so far while I check if my presentation hasn't skipped?
It doesn't seem like, well, guys, okay, Tepang's got a question. There we go, Tepang.
Sorry, I'm at work, so I'm trying to find a quiet spot. But I wanted to ask you, wrong room. Yes. I wanted to ask you, since you've been in agency, and you've also been in corporate, and you're somebody who's creative, full-on creative, interested in many things and doing those many things. For the type of, for you, which one is better between the two regarding all the things that you want to do with your time and goals in your life?
Or between the agency
Between
life,
corporate and agency. Yeah.
well, for my needs, corporate does kind of work better, but because it's not a lot of time in corporate where they would ask you to do overtime, and in agency, especially advertising, there's a lot of that, right? Especially when it's award season, like around August, they know it's the Louis. You're gonna work until 3 a.m., right? And I didn't like that. Um, it's worth it because you win awards, but I feel like my well-being comes first. So I prefer more of this, right? But I have friends who prefer the agency because they love that rush, right? So there's nothing really bad about agencies, just that certain people like certain things, and I prefer this one more than anything. And that's why I'm glad that I went through everything so that I can know, oh, this is not for me, or this is not for me, this is not for me. So I prefer that more than anything. And I think even if you go to LinkedIn, you can kind of pick up the difference between corporate and agency life. You can see like the posts that people who work in agency post and the post that people who work in corporate post. They're different, right? So it's important for you to figure out what works for you. Yeah, I think Kali said it best there in the comments. Just figure out what you want. So don't be afraid to go into agency because Kgodisho said this. Go in and see for yourself. So yeah, that's my answer to that.
Thank you.
I think that it's just another thing that came in the chats. Gichepo, I think, was a learner when you were still at Umuzi. Is that right, Kgodisho?
Yeah.
And she remembers that extra hour that you obviously brought up then and how much it helped.
Yeah.
So that's some feedback. And Timbeka says, so corporate can get a bit too retail. This also reflects in the type of people in that space. She asks, how did you manage staying yourself and growing your skills, career and reputation, keeping in mind the type of people you've met that were good for you in your journey?
Okay. So I think I have to start with when I actually started moving from being a recruit at Umuzi and getting into that life, right? So even though Umuzi painted the picture and as accurately as they could, it's not the same as experiencing it to some level, right? So I kind of knew what to expect because Andrew and everybody told us, okay, this is it, this is what happens, this is what happens, and other alumni who would come back and say, this is what happens, right? So we kind of had an idea of how that worked, and so while going in, my goal was to stand out, right? And I think also just the pressure of being a self-taught, right? Because I didn't have like any papers to like back me up and say this guy's good at what he does. I think at that point the only backup I had was Umuzi, right? So yeah, let me just check my phone. Sorry about that. Yeah. So I think the biggest currency that I had was the fact that I'm from Umuzi, right? And being from Umuzi held a lot of weight, right? Um, um, I think it probably still does, right? Because it goes back to me saying reputation is important because Umuzi has brought its own reputation of saying we only deal with quality people, right? So so having that already, people kind of already like expected a certain level of work for me because I was from Umuzi. And what I did in the beginning, I would annoy my creative director every day in the morning before all her meetings started. I would come with like 5 sketches of like ideas, and every day she'd be like, "Nah, it's trash, 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 trash." Until this one day, I think I did a sketch for like a Mahindra car. There was a print ad and and they actually picked that up and they put it in like the Louis and to Durban for the first time and all this kind of stuff. So it goes back to you putting in that work, right? And knowing who you are and figuring out yourself. It's not gonna happen instantly, but you figure out yourself as you go. And I realized that's with many designers coming in at the movie. They're like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And I have my own signature and all that kind of stuff. And it's okay to compare yourself with people who are not on the same level as you, because at least you know what your goal is. But also just remember not to put too much pressure on yourself, even though most of the time it works to your advantage. So also just know the people in your workspace who you like hanging around, right? And be around those people, right? I think that's how I survived. I looked at my team, and of course there's good people, and then there's other energies that I can't deal with. And I stuck around people who I was more comfortable with, and I asked them a lot of questions, and I asked them to push me. And that's how I survived, because through those people, I like navigated my way through the industry and understood it a bit more. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Temberger.
I think definitely. I think we got more than what we bargained for, even in that answer. So thank you for all of that insight. Andrew, I don't know if you have the capacity to turn your microphone on now, but the comment that you put in the chat there is so true. And I wonder if you can even talk to that and speak it out loud. Otherwise, I don't mind doing it.
Sure. She's put me on the spot and make me feel awkward. Thanks.
I got you.
No, I think I just wanted to say to Kgodisho that you said how Umuzi gave you this kind of like, because it was so important in the industry, and how like it gave you like an advantage because it meant something to be from Umuzi. And I think I speak about this often, but it's about this idea of social capital. And one of the things about social capital is having amazing people in our community like you, just doing you and being just absolutely brilliant, beyond belief. And so I just wanted to say back to you, brother, like you make us look amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being such a legend, and thank you for always just being the most brilliant human being that I've met. Honestly, like I get inspired so much by young people that go through this program, and you stand out as someone who not only is brilliant in your own mind, but always wants to support others, and that's just a special kind of human.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Yeah, funny story is Andrew used to use me as an example every time there's like new recruits who are like very shy, right? Because I'm introverted mainly, right? And so like through the first few weeks of me being part of Umuzi, I was like quiet, right? But being around all these weird people made me feel very comfortable because everybody was just free to say what they said, and people are swearing, and there was nothing wrong with that. I was like, okay, I wasn't used to this thing, right? But it felt very comfortable. It just felt like a very safe space. And new recruits would come in and they're quiet. Andrew would say to them, he would call me and be like, hey, do you see this guy? It's like, yeah, he used to be the quietest guy in here, but now he's the loudest guy in here. So if you're feeling shy now, it'll take some time, but you get used to it. So this just shows like how the kind of environment Umuzi is, and how freeing it is for most people, especially if you're told that your hobbies are just hobbies and nothing else, or you being different is wrong or whatever like that. So it was more than just like an educational place. It was just a safe environment. Um, and I think people who have experienced the physical version of Umuzi would definitely can relate to that. So yeah, I see that Yeseri is also getting excited about it because he knows. Um, yeah, so thank you for that. Thank you for that. Cool. So now I'm gonna speak about some tips and tricks, um, and just discoveries in general. So I have this list, and there's probably more to this, but these are just things that I could think of that kind of help me a lot. Um, so firstly, like don't put too much pressure on yourself because you figure things out, you figure your flow as you go. I think even Kali mentioned it. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. Try and dabble into things that you're interested in. Then through that you'll find out what you like, and let people talk. Right, you get more out of listening. Um, this is very important. You need to let other people talk, because from there, and I think it goes back to I think what you've been taught in your boot camp or whatever with like design thinking, empathizing. It's very important to listen to people because um, you pick up things, you learn things from letting people speak, right? And then learn the rules and then break them. As I think in this whole presentation, if you're a designer, there's probably a lot of rules that are broken and I'm not following. Like be like, no, but Kali said you can't use a font like that, right? But I'm using it. The reason being this is why it's important to learn the rules and then you can break them and work around them, right? Because upon learning the rules, you can figure out things that you feel like they don't work, and then you can be innovative like that and invent something. Um, get involved and always do things outside of your job description. This becomes very important if you wanna elevate or move up in whatever industry you're in, right? Always do things outside of your job description. And what I mean by this is like, for example, if you're working in a corporate where they're doing, they say like, okay, we're gonna do some user testing today. We're gonna go and do whatever. Get involved in those things. Help out where you can. Learn to set boundaries, but do other things outside of that, right? So that's very important. And then that also leads to you documenting everything, right? And I'm going to show you how I document everything later on. Documenting everything again goes back to you. If you feel like one day you want to get promoted, you need to document everything because you can't use your emotions. You can't say I feel like I deserve this. What you mean you feel like you deserve this, right? Right, and they gotta say that to you, and you're gonna be like, oh, this company doesn't care about me, right? So that's why it's important to document everything. Whatever you got involved in that you feel like is outside of your job description, document. I did this and did this. And um, as mentioned, you can't say that I feel like doing this. Leads to me saying remove emotions out of things and don't take things personally. I know this is not easy. That's not easy at all, especially if, for example, you have a boss and things are not going as well as everybody thought, and then frustrations come out, right? So don't take things personally. Most of the time, they're not really about you. It's just about people who are very passionate about what they do. Yes, there could be better way to handle things, but these things can happen because we are emotional beings at the end of the day. So if you can master how to control emotions, you'd be great. And then use data to prove and negotiate or convince. Goes back again to documenting everything, right? And again to you not using your emotions. Use data, use proof. This is what I did. This were the results. This was the impact. Blah 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 blah. Right? It also makes you a better, like well-rounded creative because you're not just a UI designer now. You're not just a UX designer now. Like You're a product designer. That's what product design means, right? Knowing everything. Um, and then set up coffee chats with your seniors, pick their brain. Goes back to point number 2 about letting people talk. So set up coffee chats. Ask people, hey, when do you have a gap? Can we do like a 30 minutes or 15 minutes chat? Pick their brain. Like, how did they move from where they were from to where they are? Pick their brains. What are some of their systems? What are some of their habits? Right? And then see what works for you. Not everything they say is going to work for you because people are different, but take what works for you and move with it, right? Um, and know your superpower. This mainly is targeted as what people who are more introverted, right? Because when you're introverted, I see Andrew's comment there. So, because when you're introverted, you tend to lay back and relax, and sometimes that might not work to your advantage, right? And I'm not saying you should change your personality, understand it and learn to work with it, right? So if you're introverted and you know, okay, cool, I'm gonna do the work. I'm gonna be the loudest on the call or in the office, but I'm gonna make sure that my work speaks for me, right? Um, so know your superpower, understand who you are, and understand what will work for you. Um, and then, lastly, if you can be mentored, then become a mentor, right? And I think even becoming a mentor is even more important because you actually learn a lot from guiding someone. Um, and and just having that responsibility of saying, I would tackle this way, I would tackle this way, because you don't know what you know until you have to teach it, right? So you learn a lot and you grow from that. I don't know if there's any questions or whatever from the points that I've just mentioned. Um, so I'm just looking at the comments. I don't know if you've done this, but that makes sense.
Kgodisho,
Yes.
I posted your things on on the Umuzi Academy group, and Kinsani says emotions are always involved though. How does one overcome that? And
Um,
someone's gonna have to write the answer down in the Academy group. So who's it gonna be?
uh, uh, how do you become emotions? If honestly, it takes a lot of like trial and error and just experiencing a lot of things, right? I still have, um, I've been in meetings where people would fight, right? And my pickup from the fight is like, these people are actually not attacking each other. They're working towards one goal, but because this other person didn't do this and this other person didn't do this, it's affecting their goal, right? So I think just realizing that we are on the same team, unless you're attacked directly, like this is a personal thing, yeah, that's a different story. That's a different story. But at the end of the day, like I think I always ask myself, if I'm being emotional about this, what is this exactly about? Is it about work? How can I better um, how can we move away from this? Okay, this exists. We can't change it. How do we move forward? Usually that's how I tackle things. Um, yes, sometimes you can hear in my voice that there's a little bit of frustration, uh, but I try by all means to like hold back. It takes a lot because emotions are like part of us. It's in our DNA. It takes a lot. Um, but if you can learn how to master that, I'm sure there's books and podcasts and whatever about mastering your emotions. Um, so just practice that a little bit more. Practice that a little bit more, and eventually you get better at it. It'll come out one day, but at least not coming out every day. So yeah, hopefully that answered the question.
I think it did. I think it did. There's another question for you, Kgodisho, from Tembeka in the chat. How do you introduce a new approach and design systems to a team that is very stuck in their ways? I think that's a great question.
Yeah.
A hard one to answer.
That's an amazing question. I've had to do that I'm actually currently also doing it. I think suggesting something new and also telling people that their ways of doing things is not working. It's not really like the easiest things, especially suggesting that something that you used to is not working. It's not the easiest thing. It goes back to me saying you need to use data, right? Do your research. Um, do your research. Show them what their competitors are doing, right? Do your research. Tell them what's working. If you can, design whatever idea that you have, right? And go and test it, right? See how people react to it and say, okay, cool. Out of 6 people, 5 people actually like this, and the rest didn't like your way of doing this thing, right? So, and then maybe go to the data analysis, have a call with them, and say, hey, how is the interaction with this certain section of the website or the app or whatever, right? And have those data from um, the data analysis and have that as your proof, right? And if that doesn't change their mind, then it's not something worth fighting for, because it just means that they don't care. It just means that they don't care. But usually I use data. I use data, especially now after doing a few user testing stuff. Yeah, you realize that we understand it because we are working on it and we are designers and we understand the language. But the moment you take it to any other person who would be using it, and you won't be there present to tell them press here, they'll be trying to figure it out on their own. You realize that some of the things that you're thinking about don't really work that well. So you have to like either really simplify it or just totally change things around. Um, so that's my approach of telling or suggesting something to people. I use data. Cool. Yeah. And next up, I'll just show you like some of the tools that I use. Okay, this is the part where my presentation jumps. Sorry about that. Cool. So for things like inspiration, right? My go-to is usually Pinterest and Dribble, right? So as you can see, my Pinterest is really messy, right? And it goes for it goes for because I changed my mind and I'm like, but this doesn't fit in that group. This
Oh,
that.
I know. I get that.
So Kylie can relate to that. Kylie can definitely relate to that. So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot happening. So that's where I get inspiration from design to art covers to illustrations to whatever. I use Pinterest. And I made them all private because I feel like people will judge me of how many tabs I have. I'm just like, they don't have to see these. And then I have Dribble. On Dribble, I don't have a lot, but if I bump into something that I couldn't find on Pinterest, um, I save it there. Yeah, so those are my 2 main platforms I go to. Every now and then I'll go to Behance, but sometimes I don't know if it's my machine or what, but I feel like sometimes Behance takes a lot to load. So yeah, I'm impatient. So I just go to Dribble or Pinterest. Um, and then in terms of like productivity and planning, um, I use Notion. Um, yeah, I wish I discovered Notion while I was still at Umuzi. Because this is a really cool tool to use. I use it to plan my daily tasks. Like you can see here, I would set up like a week, and under that week I'd put days, and under that day I would put tasks for the day. And if I finish them, I would just check them. And if I don't finish them, I'll just move them to the next day. So it kind of helps me track my work. And also having these living somewhere, um, it helps you like when you do your year end. So in a corporate, at the end of the year or whatever time they choose, there's gonna be like a personal development. Yeah, personal development reviews with your managers. They're gonna see how you did throughout the year, how that works, and they can either promote you in that session or they can whatever, right? But it's about your growth, right? And then from there, when you have all of these things living somewhere, you can create some sort of document and present it to your manager. That's what I did, that's what I did, that's what I did, and present like the impact it had on the team or whatever, right? So usually that's how I plan things. And if I'm being honest, I know like on YouTube people will present this and it seems like people are stuck to this. That's not reality. Like as you can see, some days I just don't use it at all, right? Because it's just hectic. I don't have time to like go and type it out. I just want to get it done already. So and it's okay. So don't put pressure on yourself to be too perfect, right? Um, so yeah, so that's what I use. And usually here I would write like this is my weekly one-on-one catch up with my manager. I would write things I would like to discuss, work I would like to present to them, and stuff like that. So that's how I plan my life. And of course, there's like a Kanban board on like um, things that I do outside of work. Um, yeah, this has been here for the longest time. Um, haven't done that in a while. Um, and now I'm gonna show you the documenting thing I was telling you about. Um, so how I document my work, right? So I'll create it. You can do this even in Google Slides or Google Word. You don't have to use Notion, but Notion is free. So I would suggest maybe looking at it. Also, I'm a visual person, and it just looks cool to me that I can change emojis and put like a background image and Skillshare. I mean, Notion is not paying me to convince you, but yeah, I like it better. Yeah, so I use like things like this where I would document title of my work, the duration I did it, priority, maybe link to the project, blah, blah, blah. Haven't used this in a while. So usually that's how I would do that and document what I did. And so I try and figure out like different layouts of these documenting things over and over. And then there's another version where it's like I document like an overview of what I've done, what I accomplished, the impact it had on that. Because this information is important when you're trying to convince, especially if you're someone who wants to move up. It's important to use these kind of data to convince your manager to say, hey, this is why I feel like wow, I used to feel like you shouldn't use feel like. This is why I deserve to feel because of this and this and this, right? So documenting everything is very important. As you can see here, I don't just document work. I even use it to run my record label. I have like release schedules. I know on this day this person gonna release everything. All right, I even have like a reading list. It's too long. It's too long. I haven't bought any of these books here, but I'm hoping to buy them one day. Right, but I use it to do everything. Right, it's taken over my life. I have it on my phone. Um, yeah, so that's what I use. I highly recommend it, and I think we've come towards the end of my presentation. Um, and in closing, take time to reflect about how far you've come. That's very important. I was telling Sarah, um, yesterday that one day I was driving with my friend, right, and we were getting into Mall of Africa, right, and while we were driving there, I asked my friends, like, did you ever imagine that one day we could move from playing with marbles from like the dusty streets in the village and now moving into this big city by our own and being where we are in life. Like, take time to reflect on those things because those things are very important, right? Those things are very, very important because it kind of grounds you and also um, make you feel proud of yourself for coming that far, right? So that's very important, and that's why um, you need to reward yourself, right? At some point in my life, I got into this habit of saying, I'm going to work, do what I need to do, send money home, and work, right? And in that whole plan, there was no time to say, okay, now go and spoil yourself, right? Do whatever you want, take a trip, right? You need to reward yourself for working hard because you deserve it, right? And that's it for me. Thank you.
Make some noise. Oh, thank you, Kgodisho. Wow. Yo, that last bit. I don't think I can speak now. Someone do this. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing. I think that the energy in the chat and the questions raised and the conversations had speak for themselves. And it's just such a pleasure to have your essence around. I think you can see the love coming in on the chat. I don't have words. I'm just so happy. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Guys, let's quickly open up the floor. If there's any feedback, questions, comments, we do have some time. So you're more than welcome to jump on there. What's next?
Sorry.
What's next?
Tell us your dreams. What's the next phase?
The next,
Next step.
I haven't really thought of that in detail, but I think the one that's been on my mind is just growing from where I am. Whatever the next step, the next level is of where I am, I want to do that, and hopefully getting more into like the management phase of things. The reason why I've been like reluctant with that is because I feel like to the point that I mentioned before, it's gonna take me away from sitting down and designing, and I like designing. Because having to manage, you have to like take care of people, go into meetings, blah 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 blah. So I think just finding the balance to do that. I do want to move more into like the management side of things and see how that is. Been taking short courses on service design because it was new to me, and it looks very interesting because it like look at like a bigger picture. So I'm really interested in that. So yeah, I guess that's kind of like the next-ish step.
Cool, I like that. I'm excited to see.
And we got a question from Keenan. Keenan, do you want to jump on the mic there?
Yes. Ironically, with service design, how are you feeling about total experience? I've sort of noticed there's a big shift towards total experience and how we design around not just our users, but employees and the spaces that they're in. And yeah, how does that affect your thinking when you're putting out a design, whether it be a digital design or designing for a physical / digital interaction that's in the same space? Yeah.
Your mic. Yeah, there you go.
Sorry, your question wasn't clear. Maybe I didn't understand a bit. I think some of the words were being mumbled a bit. Just phrase that again. Phrase that question again.
Oh, sorry. Total experience design. What is your take on that? So you said you got into service design, and I noted that. So I've been doing a lot of customer journeys of late, and looking into the future, everyone's touting omni-channel as the way to go and opti-channel. But if you look beyond that, we're getting to a space where total experience is becoming very relevant. Not just how people experience our digital products, but how people experience the physical spaces that they interact with, how employees experience those spaces, which then affects how our users and our customers experience those spaces. So what's your take on that? Have you started looking into total experience, and just what are your feelings and emotions around that?
I feel like that's important, right? And I'm glad that's been taken seriously, because yes, we focused on users at some point, and all this kind of stuff. But like, especially working at APSA, for example, right? We've had to use our colleagues as being users and people outside of APSA as other versions of users, and the call center people as other users, and the branch people as other users. So understanding like that whole process becomes very important, because now the solutions that we create are not just specific to certain people and work for them only. And since the rest of us are just employees, and the outside people are like, we take them more seriously as users. It doesn't matter what our experience is. It kind of is unfair, and it kind of affects the service we provide from the outside people, right? So I think having to understand the whole thing is very important, because then the solution kind of accommodates everybody. I didn't know the term was called total design, by the way. I just Googled it now as you were saying it. But yeah, I'm in support of that. I'm glad that's happening.
Thank you.
And then we have Tepang. Did Tepang, you raise your hand there? Oh, I think maybe put it down, but that's cool. That's cool. Any other questions coming in? I think lots of love in the chat, which is great. But I think that...
Yeah, I see Pat is here.
Sorry, was that for me?
I think, Tepang, I saw your hand, but that's okay.
Yes, no, I did have a question. My network was just bad. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for your insight. I just want to ask for something extra, which is like, how did you get onto Notion and handle it? Because to give you some context, I found the Airtable does something similar. I try to do it to manage my tasks, but then it gets overwhelming, especially if you're dealing with stuff like imposter syndrome and sometimes fear of success or fear of failure, depending on the day. So, like, what was the best way for you to get a grip of the software and then start using it?
Tutorials. So how I discovered Notion is I follow like these other UI UX designers or product designers on YouTube and look at how they document their life and blah blah blah, and I realized that one of them is using Notion, and I decided to like check it out, and because I liked how they used it, and I watched tutorials, and I was like, oh, okay. Spent like a week or so just looking at tutorials, and I realized it's not actually as difficult based on those tutorials. Yeah, man, just watching tutorials and figuring out what I want my structure to look like, and those tutorials kind of also expose you to other people's structures, because Notion is also like a building block, like can put different things together. So seeing other people's structure kind of inspires me to be like, yeah, I would love to have something that documents this and this and this. And it all being in one place and also not having to open different windows every time. Yeah, so tutorials, man. That's big that I did. And speaking about like imposter syndrome, yeah, that thing is real and exists, man. I think as Kylie said, just be a little bit kind to yourself. Yeah, because I still have it to this day. I just learned how to manage it better. So let me just plug my...
Oh, okay. This is the ad break. And speaking to imposter syndrome, Tepang, I know that you just brought that up now, and I don't know if it's of any value, but it did happen, so I thought I'd share it. In speaking to a team member on the Alex Learner Experience team, just today actually, someone made a really, really special mention that Tepang of C32 is killing it in what he's doing at Umuzi. So just remember that people see you and the things that you're doing in the space, and that really did happen today. And I just checked now to make sure I had the right Tepang, and I do. So the shout out to you, man.
Shout out, shout out. I think just to add on that, I've realized that people who usually have like extreme imposter syndrome are most of the time actually very good. Because because you put too much pressure on yourself, you don't take time to realize how much that pressure actually makes you a good creative or whatever you're working with, right? So yeah, man, take time to reflect and just learn to um, navigate through that imposter syndrome, man. It exists. It exists, definitely.
And then, Halesa, you want to ask a question?
Yes, please. Can I please ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Alrighty. So Kgodisho, thank you so much for your presentation. I just wanted to ask you, you have the skill of designing, you have the ability to address problems through creating. So I just wanted to know, is it important for you to have more designers and kind of tech people to collaborate and address more of the issues that South Africans face? And I think what I'll say to add on, is this something you would consider, or is this something you're already doing as a side project? Do you work on projects where you're dealing with those kind of pressing South African issues using your skills?
Yeah, my laptop is starting to lag. I don't know why. So it is important for everybody to collaborate, and I'm learning that more now because I'm involved in like a team that is that huge, where we have developers and um, we have project managers, we have um, quality assurance people, everything, right? And once you learn what each of those people do and like the importance of what they do, you kind of work better, become a better creative or better whatever you do, right? So I've realized that when I was presenting my work to the dev team all the time, they'll say this one work, this will work, this one work, this will work, because we use a system that works like this and this and this, and these are our restraints, blah blah blah, right? And that kind of also made me keep in mind of what's possible and what's not when I'm designing. So it kind of reduces the pushback of things getting done because we already figured it out while you were designing it. So that's the first part. And then in terms of like solving South African problems, I think in conversations that I've been in with like people in my circle, most of the time we we do talk about like the problems that we bump into and how we can solve them, right? And even I don't have any problem that I'm trying to solve currently at the moment, but it's just that thing of me writing something down, like, okay, one day I need to solve this, one day I need to solve this. I have a tab on the Notion part. It's just things I need to solve. Yeah, so I'd write those down, then I write ideas down, um, and and some problems you don't even know they exist. You get them from going to a certain event. I was even telling Sarah the other day that I'm not really a sports person, but my cousin is, right? And they have these small tournaments in the village, and I asked them, hey, how do you find out about these tournaments? Because not everybody has a phone. And whatever, right? And they're like, nah, it's just word of mouth, blah, blah, blah. So that could be like, oh, here's an opportunity, right? So and then the same thing I do, I also bounce like some ideas, some are stupid, some are good. And I think if Pat is still on a call, he can agree to this thing, because I would just randomly send him a voice, not even a good morning, just straight on voice note and be like, dude, I was thinking you can do this and this and this, and send him. So I do have those ideas, but I feel like I want to learn more so that when I get into the industry, when I get to implementing that, I know who to go to, what I need to do, and stuff like that. So the thought is there.
Okay, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
I was waiting for this moment, for the right opportunity. But it's Mbeki with the good hair in the building.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, he's here!
Y'all are weird.
We love you. We love you. That's why.
Y'all are weird. A little too weird. Don't do that.
There's his face.
Hey, what's up? Zito, my man.
No way.
Oh, dashing. Dashing.
Age.
Okay.
Age.
I'm just gonna quickly thank you.
It's funny, Kgodisho, I'm going back to what you said right in the beginning of this talk. You said something about learning that you love pixels. But I think you manifested that so hard that you've actually turned into one now because you're so pixelated.
Yeah, man. My laptop is lagging, man. It's overheating. I don't know why. It's this heat.
I think so.
Yeah.
But I think we'll take Monday. Monday's got a question, and then maybe we wrap things up and give that laptop a break. Okay?
Yeah.
How's it, everyone? Many in our way. Again, dude, thank you for your time. Quickly jumping back to the collab thing. Have you come across cases where, when talking to someone from another department, there becomes a communication issue in that we both use different languages? An example being the whole pixels thing from earlier today, and if so, how have you addressed it?
I think I have, and always is. But as a team, and the more you speak about things, the more familiar we become with certain terminologies, right? Because I could call something a tile, and then someone could just say a block, right? So it's just like having those things and just like being clear on what you mean. And hopefully people will also ask questions, say, I don't understand what that means. And then you have to explain it. So there is that. But if people in your team are more experienced, they're pretty familiar with the terms, so it doesn't really get in their way a lot. So yeah, the language thing, it doesn't get in the way unless like you are new, and then yeah, there's a different story, but not really a big issue.
All right, thanks again, fam.
Thank you, man.
Monday, I hope you have eyes on the chat there, because people are a fan of the voice that you have. We need to put you on a platform so that you can speak to us. We will listen. We will.
I'll have to check them out later.
Cool. I think that if there are no more final questions, guys, I think that we can wrap that up with a huge, big thank you again to Kgodisho for the time and the insights shared. I think that this today, the energy surrounding this call epitomizes exactly what we're trying to do with this Beyond Umuzi space. So thank you to each person that played a role in that. Thank you for participating in the chat. Thank you for spending your Wednesday afternoon with us. Zito, thank you so much for your being here, and just looking forward to whatever lies ahead.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I enjoy doing these kind of things, because yeah, we don't get to talk a lot about the things we do. The more you talk about them, the more you realize that there's like a structure to it that we create. But yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I'm gonna plug everyone into your links. I've got some thoughts we'll wrap up. Maybe we'll pull some of your presentation slides, if you're okay with that, to share your golden tips. And yeah, let this not be the last conversation we have.
100%. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Have a beautiful, beautiful, powerful rest of the week. It's Wednesday. Let's go into the rest of it with love and compassion and power and energy. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye. Bye.
Oh, I want to get the chat before we go. Got it. Oh, at the last man standing, I always get to know who wasn't listening when they're still on the call.
It's interesting.
Bye.
Bye. Apiwe, are you there? I see you. I see you. Okay, how do I start?